And she was interested and curious. Our parents both were. And it's that pouring into us, but the humility that comes with, you don't just tell a kid no. You tell a kid why and how. And we got that every step of the way. And it's amazing how that little simple thing of seeing a child, valuing their voice, giving them some boundaries, giving them some humility, like that's better than stuff. That's better than iPhones and new cars and the best sneakers and contacts and connections. We didn't have any of that.
Right.
But we had parents who put that battery in our back.
And even if what I remember is it didn't matter how ridiculous the things we said.
Right.
What she did was she would ask questions to encourage us to get to the point we were trying to make. And that patience is what I remember and what I think gave me the confidence to be intellectual and successful that way.
And you was Southside of Chicago intellectual.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Were you ostracized for, no disrespect, but you're renowned nerds, both of you.
Well, you had to.
Let's get
You had to learn how to. You had to learn how to fake the funk. You had to talk two languages. You had to talk the language of I got an A, but let's not talk about it because I got to get home too.
Right.
And you had to, own your intelligence. Now, my brother had basketball to help him.
So everybody loved you because you could play.
Oh my God!
You
yes.
just played every sport and throw out the N-word every now and then.
Yeah, it works.
That always
show that he's
works.
hard.
Show that I'm a little hard, but don't tell my mom I said that.
You didn't have to fight because you were a baller. Everyone loves a baller.
Everybody loved ballers, but I didn't become a baller until I was about 12. So I had my share of fights before I was 12 years old.
Right.
And unlike your mom, my mom would be like, be careful fighting because you're bigger than everybody.
Oh, man, my mom was like, you better bite, nigga. You better fight.
If your mom was at my house, there would have been a couple of ass whoopings going on.
But you know what else it was about you, Mom, that I love is, okay, my mom's laugh is like music. If she, and her mom's laugh was like music. And my grandfather, her dad's laugh is like music, man. And I think that's another thing that made me want to be funny. Just hearing that music come out of them, it made me feel joyful.
At what age did you realize that? Because one of the questions I was thinking about when we were talking to you is you were smart enough and talented enough to pick a whole lot of different avenues. But you picked comedy.
So, okay, yeah. Or I don't know if I picked it. Okay, so I can't remember a time when I didn't feel like I was a funny guy.
Okay.
Or some kind of equivalent of like, yeah, I was just like, that was my thing. But I didn't know that was a thing. When I was 8 years old, my grandmother had a friend come visit who was a jazz singer, Johnny Hartman, the famous jazz singer, one of the only vocalists that John Coltrane has ever recorded with. Beautiful voice, smoked cigarettes, his voice sounded like velvet, so smooth. And I remember I had just done a book report on Dr. Charles Drew.
How old were you?
I was 8, and I was thinking, I was going to be a doctor. And I showed the guy the book report, and he goes, that's good. I go, I'm going to be a doctor. He goes, nah. He said, because I was cutting up all day. I was 8. He said, you're going to be a comedian.
Wow.
And I go, what's that? He said, well, like Red Fox or Richard Pryor. You know who that is? I'm like, yeah, I watch, from Sanford and Son. I don't know him like he knows him. He said, it's a person that's funny for money. He goes, you're going to be one of those. And I thought about that. I think about it every once in a while. I'll think about because, he's long passed away, God rest his soul. But whatever he saw in me that day, he saw it so clear that it scares me to think back at it. I'm like, did I choose this or did I? But when I finally did do stand-up, to me it feels like a lifetime. It was only 6 years, from 8 to I was 14 when I started.
14.
Yeah.
Wow.
which didn't seem crazy at the time.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I got a text message from a comedian I started out with. He's kind of a famous guy, Patton Oswalt. He sent me a video that one of his fans has sent him, and I couldn't understand. They were in some like dilapidated room, and then he pans over and I look, and it's the stage that we had both started on.
Was it in D.C.?
On 14th and L Northwest is ironically, drum roll please, it's a gay club now. Yeah, but it gave me chills just to see it because it all happened so fast. I can't believe how far I came.
There are a lot of creative kids in communities across the land. Being a creative, going to do show business, I mean, for most black parents, they'd be like, you better get you a good job. What are you talking about?
Yes, exactly.
You know,
right.
But your mom did the exact opposite. I mean, she got you on stage. She thought about the education that you would need. Wasn't she the one that suggested that you go to one of my favorite high schools on the planet,
Duke
Ellington in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, she was. I think not just that. She would sit with me, after school, she'd meet me. We'd go to the comedy club. We'd sit there all night. We'd eat fried
Your mom would
food.
go to the comedy club
after
with you.
she had been working or doing whatever it was she did that day, and I didn't realize it at the time. But she's a mom. She was auditing the scene. Now I don't think she necessarily thought I was going to be a famous comedian, but at that time, the crack epidemic and everything, all the bad things I could be doing, and I expressed such this earnest interest in being a comedian. And so she shepherded me. She figured out who's trustworthy and not trustworthy. And okay, could you come give my baby a ride home if I leave early and that kind of thing. And then by the time I was 16, I was a professional. Like I would get gigs and make money, and I didn't need her to go as much. And then that was kind of sad because her baby was growing up. But the big one was not going to college because I'm the first person since slavery in our family to make that choice. Like everyone's
Dave, way to break the cycle of education.
Someone needs to break this cycle of learning. But I ended up moving to New York, and honestly, maybe it was the best education a person could ever get. But the guardrails of that education was ambition, not just like really artistic ambition. I was enamored. I always looked at comedy like, what else can it do? And I still experiment with it, which is more dangerous now, but no less rewarding. This job never gets easier. It's never not fulfilling, and it's never not challenging.
So at 16, you're a professional on the road, on your own. Who were your influences? Did you have any mentors? Did you do it solely by yourself?
No. Okay, so the local scene in D.C. was popping. Like I said, Patton, who went on to be famous, he was there. A guy named Tony Woods was one of the big guys on the scene. BET had just started, and it was local in DEC, so Chris Thomas was doing all these things on BET. Tommy Davidson was on In Living Color, but he was from our local scene. Martin Lawrence was just getting big, but these were all local guys. So I wasn't on the road yet. I would get a road gig here or there, but and the principal at Ellington used to give me excused absences if I left on Friday to go on the road because it was an artistic pursuit. And I'd catch the train up the Eastern Seaboard and get a gig here or there. But it was mostly happening in town, in Washington. And the scene was very experimental and very competitive, but there was a lot of camaraderie on that scene. New York was different, but man, D.C. was, I think, the perfect place to start because I had enough room to get good.
Is there a point in a comedian's development where they determine what kind of comic they want to be. I mean, you are a gifted storyteller, weaving in life and observation, and taking us full circle. Did you
Oh, yeah.
did you have to become that? Did you know that as a kid that's how I want to make people laugh?
That's a very good question.
Thank you.
No, that's like a very good question. There are certain, people ask me, who are your favorite comedians? And it's not like that. In my mind, it's a dunk reel of just different comedians doing different things that amaze me. Some more consistently than others. But, man, any night, it could be just some guy who just says the thing of that night. But, man, when I was in high school, and I can't remember who I saw do it first, the first time I saw a guy do what we call call back a joke, make reference to something he referenced before, I'm like, wait a minute, you do the same joke twice? And from then on, man, I'm telling you, I'm like those guys that can draw a perfect circle freehand. If I went on stage with no material, I would just know what to do. But I've been doing this so long, comedy it's almost like a language that I know how to speak. I can say anything in this language, but there are real parameters, and it's like music. You also want to break out of those parameters, like a bebop guy. Like I don't want to play the same stuff everybody plays. But that being said, man, in my life, man, I've seen some of the greatest comedy ever done, and I feel so lucky to have seen all of it. But what made me want to be what I'm like is a long story. Can I tell it?
Please. This is your interview, Dave Chappelle. Please take your time.
I
Tell
have
it
so
slowly.
many questions. It feels dumb talking about myself around y'all, but I'll try. Okay, the single most impactful thing that I've ever seen. I was maybe 19 years old. I opened for Richard Pryor at Newark Symphony Hall, and I got there early, and I met Mr. Pryor before the show, and I could see, like I was eyeballing him, that he wasn't feeling well. Now by this time, everyone knew he had MS and all that. I just don't know what MS does to people, but I knew that whatever it does, it was doing it. And so I say to myself, you know what? Like I want to do good, but let me just take it easy because it's like a legend. So I just did the housekeeping job. I got the crowd good and warm, and they didn't want to see me anyway. They wanted to see him. And then I go and I get off the stage. He had the intro where his man goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, the most two beautiful words in comedy, Richard Pryor." Man, crowd goes nuts. And he goes out there. And you could tell early on that this was not his night. And maybe 30 minutes into his set, he stops, and it's something I wouldn't even know you could do. He looks at the crowd and he goes, "Look," he goes, "I want to do this for you guys," but he goes, "I'm not feeling well." He said, "I'm sorry." He goes, "I don't got it in me tonight. I'm sorry." Just like that. And man, you could hear like a pin drop. And then this guy in the back of the room jumps to his feet like that. He jumps up, he goes, "We love you, Richard." And the place exploded. Longest, loudest ovation. Like, man, it went on, and he stood there. And then, okay, I'm young, right? But then I realized what I'm looking at, that this is his last show for them. They probably will never see him live again. And people were crying and wiping tears out their eyes, and he looked a little emotional. And to me, it was the first time I had seen like actual love, like bouncing off the walls. Like, man, they love this person. And if I had never seen that, I wouldn't even know that's something to want, because no one has it like Richard like that. And when I saw that, more than any type of style, I'm like, man, I want to be like that. And that notion made me work, I think, more patiently than I would have. But that was the moment I knew that fame was one of the things I wanted. But whatever the hell that thing Richard had, that moment.
So then, what does it feel like when it doesn't work? You know?
Now it does. Now, man, okay, this is a good question. You mean like if I do a show and it doesn't go well?
You know that, and when the love doesn't come and the opposite comes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be both and.
Yeah, maybe it's more like, in my experience, it was both. Because I was doing jokes that some people thought were controversial and some people didn't. But that experience, from my perspective, is much different than what it must have been like watching it. Because, listen, people would think it's me versus the gay community. I never looked at it like that. I always thought it was corporate interest and culture negotiating itself. So, most of those people who were critical of what I was doing didn't seem like they were of it. It's like they had their faces pressed against the glass, commenting on what we were doing in there, but they weren't in there doing it. And like I think I spoke to you about this earlier. Every opinion you can think of is represented in a comedy club. Every type of person you can imagine does stand-up comedy, transgender stand-up comics, black, white, Asian, every kind of perspective. And we all champion whatever opinion we champion. We would never think to silence one another. We might duke it out on stage in the sense of like, if someone says something racist and I get mad, I'll be like, yo, put me up next. Because I want to say something about what they said. But silencing that person wouldn't be anything. And then after the show, we all be upstairs drinking. And we might still talk about it or argue about it. But that's our life. And we're artists, and that's what we do, and we have this outlet. So for a media outlet to speculate on a comedy show that they weren't at or misinterpret a joke or nothing makes a comedian madder than reading his joke wrong in the paper. And reading a joke is nothing like hearing one or being one. And the intention of a comedy show is a very unique intention. We are playing with whatever the culture is made of. And we break it down and we get it right or we get it wrong. But in all art, if it's going to be good or even hopefully great, you got to have a margin of error. And what they were doing was acting like thought or speech was binary. Like everything's either this or that, but all art is in between that. It's all nuance. So when they take nuance out of words and just like, did you hear what he said? He said, it's like, yeah, but that's not what I was saying. Yeah. So
we talked about,
I was just about to close my laptop. I really was. The screen was dimming, my hand was on the mouse, and I had already said good night to the room. But then I saw the title, Dave Chappelle Dropping Gems Like No One Could Ever Imagine. And I stopped. I stopped because Dave Chappelle is not just a comedian. He is a philosopher, a truth teller, a man who has walked through fire and come out the other side with wisdom that most people spend their whole lives searching for. When he drops gems, they are not just jokes. They are not just punchlines. They are reflections on life, on fame, on pain, on love, on the human condition. They are the kinds of truths that hit you in the chest and leave you breathless. So I clicked. And now here I am, hours later, because this video took me on a journey I didn't know I needed. A journey through the mind of a man who has seen the highest heights and the lowest lows, and has somehow managed to hold on to his soul. Let me tell you about it. Let me walk you through it. Every single minute of it. The video starts with a montage. Clips of Dave on stage, in interviews, in conversation. His voice is calm, measured. He's not performing. He's not doing bits. He's just talking, thinking out loud, sharing what he's learned. The montage fades, and you see him sitting in a chair. Not a fancy chair, a simple chair. The kind you'd find in a dressing room or a green room. He's wearing a hoodie, no hat, no sunglasses, no jewelry. He looks tired. Not the tired of someone who hasn't slept. The tired of someone who has been thinking hard, thinking about things that don't have easy answers. He looks at the camera, not with his performer's face, with his real face, the one he hides from the world. He says, "I've been thinking a lot about time, about how much of it we have, about how we use it, about what we leave behind. And I've realized that most people are sleepwalking. They're going through the motions, doing what they're told, following the path that's been laid out for them. And they never stop to ask why. They never stop to ask if this is really what they want. They never stop to ask if there's another way. And that's a tragedy. Because there is always another way. There is always a choice. There is always a chance to do something different, to be something different, to live something different." He pauses. He looks down at his hands. He looks back up. He says, "I walked away from $50 million. People thought I was crazy. They thought I was throwing my life away. They thought I would regret it, but I didn't. I don't. Because I knew that the money wasn't worth it. The fame wasn't worth it. The price was too high. And I had to choose. I had to choose between my soul and my success. And I chose my soul. And that decision, that choice, has informed everything I've done since. It's taught me that money is not the most important thing, that integrity matters, that peace matters, that freedom matters. And if you have to choose between those things and a paycheck, you choose yourself. You choose your soul. You choose your peace. You choose your freedom." I felt that in my chest. Because how many of us have stayed in situations that were draining our souls because we were afraid to walk away? How many of us have taken the money and smiled while something inside us died? Dave Chappelle had the courage to walk away from more money than most of us will ever see. And he did it because he knew that some things are more important than a paycheck. He says, "People ask me all the time, 'How did you know? How did you know it was time to go?' And I tell them because I couldn't sleep, because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, because the work didn't feel like mine anymore, because I was performing for people who didn't see me, who didn't care about me, who just wanted to consume me. And that's a terrible feeling, to be used, to be a product, not a person. And I had to get out. I had to save myself, because no one else was going to do it. No one else was going to save me. I had to save myself." He shifts in the chair. He pulls his knees up. He looks smaller, younger, more vulnerable. He says, "That's a gem. That's something I've learned. You have to save yourself. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to swoop in and fix your love. You have to do it. You have to make the hard choices. You have to take the risks. You have to be willing to lose it all in order to keep what matters." And that's scary. That's really scary. But it's also liberating. Because once you realize that you're the only one who can save you, you stop waiting, you stop hoping, you start acting, you start living. He leans forward. His voice gets softer, more intense. He says, "I think about the young people who watch me, the ones who are trying to figure out who they are, the ones who are struggling with their identity, the ones who feel like they don't belong. I want them to know that it's okay to be different. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to say no. It's okay to choose yourself. Because the world will tell you to fit in, to conform, to be like everyone else. But the world is wrong. The world is lying. The only way to be truly happy is to be yourself, to follow your own path, to make your own choices. And that's not easy. It's not easy at all. But it's worth it. It's so worth it." He pauses. He looks at the camera. His eyes are wet. He doesn't wipe them. He says, "Another gem. Something else I've learned. You have to be willing to be misunderstood. You have to be willing to be judged. You have to be willing to be alone. Because when you choose yourself, when you follow your own path, not everyone is going to understand. Not everyone is going to support you. Not everyone is going to stick around. And that's okay. That's part of the journey. The people who are meant to be in your life will stay. The ones who aren't will fall away. And you have to be okay with that. You have to trust that the right people will find you. The right people will see you. The right people will love you for who you are, not for who they want you to be." He leans back. He takes a breath. He says, "I've been misunderstood my whole career. People have called me crazy, difficult, unpredictable. And maybe I am. Maybe I am all of those things. But I'm also free. I'm also real. I'm also myself. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Not for the money. Not for the fame. Not for the approval of people who don't know me. Because at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is my own. The only person I have to answer to is myself. And I have to be able to look in the mirror and like what I see. I have to be able to live with my choices. I have to be able to sleep at night. He looks at the camera, straight into it. He says, "That's the real gem. That's the thing that took me years to learn. You have to be able to live with yourself. You have to be able to look in the mirror and not flinch. You have to be able to say, I did my best. I was true to myself. I didn't sell out. I didn't give up. I didn't let them break me. And if you can do that, if you can get to that place, then you've won. The rest is just details. The rest is just noise. The rest is just the world trying to distract you from what matters." He pauses. He takes a sip of water. He says, "I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I've hurt people. I've been hurt. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still talking. I'm still telling the truth. And that's something. That's everything. Because the truth is all we have. The truth is what sets us free. The truth is what connects us. The truth is what heals us. And if I can share a little bit of truth, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of hope, then I've done my job. I've done what I was put here to do." He reaches out. His hand touches the camera. The video ends. And I'm just sitting here, in the dark. My living room, my blanket, my cold tea, my tired eyes, my wet cheeks, thinking about Dave Chappelle, about the gems he dropped, about the truths he shared, about the courage it took to walk away from $50 million, about the courage it takes to be yourself in a world that wants you to be someone else. I think about what he said about saving yourself, about no one coming to rescue you. That's a hard truth, a scary truth, but it's also liberating, because once you accept it, you stop waiting, you stop hoping, you start acting, you start living, you start making the hard choices, you start taking the risks, you start being your own hero. I think about what he said about being misunderstood, about being willing to be judged, about being willing to be alone. That's hard. That's really hard. Because we all want to be liked. We all want to be understood. We all want to belong. But sometimes, the price of belonging is too high. Sometimes the price of being liked is your soul. And you have to be willing to pay the other price. The price of being yourself. The price of being free. I think about what he said about looking in the mirror, about not flinching, about being able to live with your choices. That's the real test. That's the real measure of success. Not the money, not the fame, not the applause, the quiet moments, the late nights when you can't sleep and you have to face yourself. That's where the real work is done. That's where the real victory is won. That's the video. That's the commentary. That's what I've been sitting with for the past however long, 30 minutes, maybe more. I lost track. Because this video made me think about things I hadn't thought about in years. About courage and integrity. About choosing yourself and saving yourself. About being misunderstood and being free. About the mirror and the quiet moments and the real work. And now I think I'll go to bed. But I won't sleep. Not right away. I'll lie there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Dave Chappelle, about the gems he dropped, about the truths he shared, about the courage he modeled, about the freedom he found. And maybe, just maybe, I'll think about my own life, about the choices I need to make, about the risks I need to take, about the person I need to be, about the mirror I need to face, about the freedom I need to claim. Good night, for real this time. No more scrolling, no more videos, just me and the ceiling, and the memory of Dave Chappelle's quiet voice, and his wet eyes, and his call to be yourself, and the hope that somewhere, in a world full of sleepwalkers, there are people who are awake, people who are making hard choices, people who are saving themselves, people who are willing to be misunderstood, people who are able to look in the mirror and not flinch, people who are free. I was just about to close my laptop. I really was. The screen was dimming, my hand was on the mouse, and I had already said goodnight to the room. But then I saw the title again. Dave Chappelle dropping gems like no one could ever imagine. A different video, a longer version, more stories, more wisdom, more of Dave's soul laid bare. And I couldn't walk away. Not from him. Not when he's talking like this. Not when he's sharing the kind of truths that most people keep locked away. So I pressed play. And now here I am, hours later, because this man has done it to me again. He's made me think. He's made me feel. He's made me look at my own life and ask myself what's really important. Let me tell you about this one. Let me walk you through it. Every single minute of it. This video starts differently. No chair, no green room. Dave is walking down a street, a quiet street, trees, houses, the sound of birds, the sound of his footsteps on the pavement. He's holding his phone, filming himself, and he's just talking. Like he's thinking out loud, like he forgot anyone might ever see this, like he's having a conversation with himself, and we're lucky enough to be listening. He says, I've been thinking a lot about fear, about how it controls us, about how it holds us back, about how it keeps us small. Most people are afraid to fail, afraid to succeed, afraid to be judged, afraid to be alone, afraid to be themselves, afraid to speak their minds, afraid to live their dreams. And that fear, that constant nagging fear, it steals their lives, it steals their joy, it steals their potential, and they don't even realize it. They think they're being cautious, they think they're being wise, but they're not. They're being controlled, they're being paralyzed, they're being robbed. He stops walking. He's standing in front of a house. Blue shutters, a porch, a swing. He looks at it for a long time. He doesn't say anything, he just looks. And then he starts walking again. He says, I used to be afraid. I used to be afraid of failing, of bombing on stage, of being rejected, of being forgotten. And that fear, it drove me. It pushed me to work harder, to be funnier, to be better. But it also held me back. It made me second-guess myself. It made me play it safe. It made me perform for the audience instead of for myself. And it wasn't until I let go of that fear, until I stopped caring about what people thought, until I started being myself, that I found my voice, that I found my freedom, that I found my joy. He turns a corner. The street gets quieter. More trees, more birds. He says, fear is a liar. It tells you that you can't, that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve it, that you'll fail, that you'll be laughed at, that you'll be rejected. And you believe it. You believe the lies. You let them stop you. You let them keep you small. But here's the truth. The truth is that you can. The truth is that you are enough. The truth is that you deserve it. The truth is that failure is not the end. The truth is that being laughed at is not the end. The truth is that rejection is not the end. The only end is giving up. The only end is letting fear win. He stops. He's at a park now, a small park, a bench, a tree, a kid on a swing. He watches the kid for a moment. The kid doesn't know who he is, doesn't care, just swinging, being a kid. Dave smiles, a soft smile, a remembering smile. He says that kid isn't afraid. He's not afraid to swing high. He's not afraid to fall. He's not afraid to try. He just lives. He just is. And that's beautiful. That's how we should be. Not afraid, not held back, not paralyzed, just living, just being, just trying. And if we fall, we get back up. If we fail, we try again. If we're laughed at, we keep going. Because the only real failure is giving up. The only real loss is losing yourself. He starts walking again. The park is behind him now. The trees are getting taller. The houses are getting farther apart. He says, another gem, something else I've learned. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to look stupid. You have to be willing to be laughed at. Because that's the price of greatness. That's the price of trying something new. That's the price of being yourself. And if you're not willing to pay that price, you'll never know what you're capable of. You'll never reach your potential. You'll never live your dreams. You'll just stay small, safe, comfortable, and miserable. He pauses. He looks at the camera. He says, I've failed a lot. I've bombed on stage. I've said things I regretted. I've made bad decisions. I've hurt people. I've been hurt. But I've also succeeded. I've made people laugh. I've made people think. I've made people feel seen. I've made a difference. And I couldn't have done that without being willing to fail, without being willing to take risks, without being willing to be vulnerable, without being willing to be myself. He wipes his eyes. He doesn't hide it. He says, I think about the young comedians who come to me for advice. They're so afraid of bombing, afraid of being rejected, afraid of not being good enough. And I tell them, you're going to bomb. You're going to be rejected. You're going to feel like you're not good enough. That's part of the process. That's part of the journey. And if you can't handle that, you should do something else. Because this isn't for the faint of heart. This is for people who are willing to fail, who are willing to look stupid, who are willing to be laughed at, who are willing to keep going no matter what. He looks at the camera, straight into it. He says, that's the gem. That's the truth. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be scared. Because on the other side of that fear is everything you've ever wanted. On the other side of that fear is your dream, your potential, your joy, your freedom. And you'll never get there if you let fear stop you. You'll never get there if you play it safe. You'll never get there if you stay small. He pauses. He takes a breath. He looks up at the sky. He says, I'm still afraid. Every time I walk on stage, I'm afraid. Every time I try something new, I'm afraid. Every time I speak my mind, I'm afraid. But I do it anyway. Because I've learned that fear is not a stop sign. It's a guide. It's telling you that you're about to do something important, something that matters, something that could change your life. And if you let it stop you, you'll never know what could have been. You'll never know what you could have become. You'll never know what you could have achieved. He reaches out. His hand touches the camera. The video ends, and I'm just sitting here, in the dark, my living room, my blanket, my cold tea, my tired eyes, my wet cheeks, thinking about Dave Chappelle, about the gems he dropped, about the truths he shared, about the fear he faced and the courage he found. I think about what he said about fear being a liar. That's so true. Fear tells us we can't, that we're not good enough, that we don't deserve it, and we believe it. We let it stop us. We let it keep us small, that we are enough, that we deserve it. And we have to stop believing the lies. We have to start believing the truth. I think about what he said about being willing to fail, about being willing to look stupid, about being willing to be laughed at. That's hard. That's really hard. Because we all want to be seen as competent, as smart, as successful. But the price of that image is often our dreams. We're so afraid of looking foolish that we never try anything that might fail. We never reach for anything that might be out of reach. We stay small, safe, comfortable, and miserable. I think about the kid on the swing, not afraid, not held back, just swinging, just living, just being. That's how I want to be. Not paralyzed by fear, not stopped by the possibility of failure, just swinging, just living, just being, just trying. That's the video. That's the commentary. That's what I've been sitting with for the past however long. 30 minutes, maybe more. I lost track. Because this video made me think about things I hadn't thought about in years. About fear and courage, about failure and success, about being willing to look stupid and being willing to be yourself. And now I think I'll go to bed. But I won't sleep, not right away. I'll lie there staring at the ceiling, thinking about Dave Chappelle, walking down a quiet street, talking about fear, talking about failure, talking about courage, talking about the kid on the swing, about the young comedians, about the price of greatness and the cost of playing it safe. And maybe, just maybe, I'll think about my own fears, about the lies I've believed, about the risks I've avoided, about the dreams I've let fear steal, about the chances I didn't take, about the person I could have become. I'll think about what he said, that fear is not a stop sign. It's a guide. It's telling you that you're about to do something important. I'll try to move toward my fears instead of away from them. I'll try to be willing to fail, to look stupid, to be laughed at, to keep going no matter what. Because that's where the gems are. That's where the growth is. That's where the freedom is. Good night, for real this time. No more scrolling, no more videos, just me and the ceiling, and the memory of Dave Chappelle's quiet voice and his wet eyes, and his walk down a quiet street. And the hope that somewhere, in a world full of fear, there are people who are brave, people who are willing to fail, people who are willing to look stupid, people who are willing to be laughed at, people who are willing to keep going, people who are willing to be themselves, people who are free.